Your energy is more important than your time. You can get your time back tomorrow, but if you waste your energy today, you can't think, you can't focus, and you can't perform. Most people don't even realize it, but they're tired before the day begins. They say they want to be successful, but they don't protect the one thing that fuels everything: energy. You can have great goals, but if your energy is low, nothing moves. You feel stuck, frustrated, and behind. If you're always tired, it's not your work. It's how you're using your energy. You say yes too often. You talk too much about the wrong things. You stay around the wrong people. Then you wonder why you can't stay focused. In this video, I'm going to show you how to master your energy step by step. Once you do that, everything gets better: your mind, your focus, your results. Stay with me. This is how real change begins. Number 1, stop explaining yourself to people who don't listen. That might be the most freeing decision you ever make in your life. Because when you try to prove yourself to people who have already made up their mind about you, you're wasting 2 things you can't get back: your energy and your time. And those 2 things are the foundation of everything meaningful you'll ever build. If someone is not willing to understand you, no amount of words will change their view. They're not listening to grow. They're listening to argue. They're not asking questions to know more. They're waiting for their turn to talk. And if you keep explaining yourself to that kind of person, all you're doing is draining yourself dry. You lose your focus, you lose your calm, you lose your clarity. You need to understand something that took me years to learn. Your energy is limited. If you give it to the wrong situations and the wrong people, you will not have enough left for the right ones. You could have a great plan, a strong work ethic, and the right vision, but if your energy is scattered, it won't matter. You'll be tired before the real work even starts. Every time you explain yourself to someone who's not really hearing you, you give away a little part of your drive. You give away your confidence. You start to question your own judgment. That's not growth. That's destruction. And it's slow. You don't see it at first, but you feel it. You feel it in how tired you get around certain people. You feel it in how your mood drops after a 5-minute conversation. You feel it when you start avoiding your own goals because you're too caught up defending them. So stop defending what you believe. Just live it. Stop proving your value. Just deliver it. Stop justifying your decisions. Just stand behind them. The people who really matter won't need explanations. They'll see the work. They'll respect the discipline. They'll notice the effort. The ones who demand constant explanations are the ones who are secretly hoping you doubt yourself. And when you stop explaining yourself, they lose their grip on your life. You owe it to yourself to protect your peace. If someone doesn't respect your time, stop giving them your presence. If they mock your vision, stop giving them your voice. If they twist your words, stop giving them your truth. Your job isn't to win everyone over. Your job is to stay true to what you know is right for you. Because when you spend your energy explaining, defending, and correcting, you're not moving forward. You're standing still. Worse, you're sinking. Now, I understand why people explain themselves. I really do. You want to be understood. You want to be seen. You want to be accepted. That's human. But you have to realize not everyone is meant to understand you. Not everyone deserves access to your thoughts. Not everyone should have the power to pull your attention. And the sooner you realize that, the stronger you get. You stop chasing opinions. You stop needing validation. You stop waiting for someone to say you're right. And you start saying it to yourself. Self-respect means you know when to walk away. It means you know the difference between explaining to clarify and explaining to please. And if you're honest with yourself, you'll know which one you've been doing. Sometimes the reason we feel stuck isn't because we lack motivation. It's because we're too busy talking to people who don't even value what we're building. Imagine how much clearer your mind would be if you stopped replaying conversations that didn't matter. Imagine how much more peace you'd have if you didn't carry the weight of other people's confusion about your life. You don't need to make sense to everyone. You don't need everyone to agree. What you need is to stay focused on your mission. What you need is to keep your energy clean. If someone misunderstands you on purpose, let them. If someone mislabels your silence, let them. If someone doubts your path, let them. You don't owe them an explanation. You owe yourself results. You want to master your energy? Start there. Stop explaining yourself. Save that strength for something better. Speak where your words can grow. Invest your time in people who are building, not criticizing. You don't have to be rude. You don't have to be cold. Just be unavailable to nonsense. Be unavailable to small talk that leads nowhere. Be unavailable to arguments that go in circles. Be unavailable to the need to be understood by people who refuse to understand. Here's the truth. You can't move forward and keep looking back. You can't grow if you're still stuck explaining your roots. You can't win if you're drained before the game even starts. Your future requires more energy than your past ever deserved. So protect that energy. Guard it like your future depends on it, because it does. Every successful person you know has learned this lesson. They don't waste their mornings fighting to be heard. They don't chase opinions. They don't over-explain their moves. They let their results speak. And that's what you have to do. Let your growth be the response. Let your discipline be the answer. Let your peace be the final word. Some people won't understand your silence. That's okay. Some people won't get why you stopped talking. That's okay too. You're not angry. You're just focused. You're not distant. You're just protecting what matters. And when you do that, when you finally stop explaining yourself, you'll feel something powerful. Freedom. Freedom from approval. Freedom from noise. Freedom from trying to fix what was never your job to fix. And that's when your energy starts to rise. That's when you get your clarity back. That's when your mind starts working again. You start showing up with purpose. You start finishing what you start. You stop hesitating. You stop second guessing. You move, you act, you grow. So I'll tell you one more time, not to convince you, but to remind you of what you already know. Stop explaining yourself to people who don't listen. They're not your problem. Your energy is. And when you take care of that, everything else begins to change. Number 2, take breaks before your mind starts breaking down. Most people push themselves too far and then wonder why they can't think straight. They wait until their body crashes, their mind shuts down, and their motivation disappears. But energy doesn't vanish all at once. It fades slowly. It's not a dramatic collapse. It's small moments of neglect. And one of the biggest mistakes you can make is refusing to pause when your mind is asking for rest. You don't need to wait for burnout to know you're going too far. The signs show up early. You feel irritated for no reason. You find it harder to focus. Simple decisions start feeling like pressure. Your patience runs thin. You become numb to what used to excite you. That's not laziness, that's mental fatigue. And if you don't take it seriously, you'll end up stuck in cycles that keep repeating because your mind doesn't have space to create something better. Rest is not a luxury, it's part of the process. And if you ignore that, you'll pay for it with confusion, mistakes, and a lack of progress. The goal isn't to work nonstop. The goal is to stay clear, consistent, and sharp. And you can't do that if you're tired all the time. You can't master your energy if you don't know when to pause. Taking a break doesn't mean you're giving up. It means you care enough about your goals to protect the mind that's going to reach them. If your mind shuts down, your ambition can't carry the load. You can't build anything strong from a weak mental state. And too many people walk around exhausted, pretending they're fine, performing routines with no soul in it. That's not strength. That's damage hiding under discipline. It's easy to fall into the trap of doing more. Pushing yourself feels productive. But if you're not thinking clearly, what exactly are you producing? More mistakes? More confusion? More rework? That's not forward motion. That's mental spinning. Taking breaks is not about being lazy. It's about being wise enough to know when your best thinking has left the room. You don't need a week off to reset. Sometimes you just need 10 minutes with no noise. Sometimes you need to walk away from the screen and breathe. Sometimes you need to get outside, look up at the sky, and let your thoughts slow down. Because when your mind slows down, your clarity rises, and clarity is what helps you make strong decisions. You don't need to be on all the time. That mindset will break you. You're not a machine. Even machines have cooling systems. Even the best cars need to be turned off. But somehow we expect our minds to keep running no matter how cluttered, how overwhelmed, or how disconnected we feel. That's not discipline, that's neglect. What you need is rhythm. Push hard, then rest. Go deep, then recover. Think big, then recharge. That's how you master your energy. It's not about being intense all the time. It's about knowing when to back off so you can come back stronger. If you treat rest as weakness, you'll burn out trying to prove your worth. But if you treat rest as fuel, you'll stay sharp while others fade. You've probably noticed something. When you're tired, everything feels heavier. Problems feel bigger. Small tasks feel annoying. Conversations feel harder. And that's not because life suddenly changed. That's because your mind is tired. When you ignore that, you lose the edge. Your emotions become louder. Your vision becomes blurry. And your energy drops so low that even simple tasks start to feel impossible. That's why breaks matter. They're not time wasted, they're time protected. They're your way of saying, my mind is a tool and I need to take care of it. They give you space to reset your thinking, to remind yourself what matters, to recover the focus that gets buried under noise and pressure. Taking a break isn't something you ask permission for. It's something you schedule like everything else. Because when you leave it to chance, it never happens. You'll keep pushing, telling yourself you're almost done. You'll ignore the signals, your tired eyes, your scattered thoughts, your heavy breathing. And you'll pretend it's just a phase. But it's not a phase. It's your mind asking for help. And if you don't answer, you'll lose more than time. You'll lose the ability to enjoy what you're working for. You see, no one gets stronger by running on empty. Strength comes from restoration, from being honest about your limits, from knowing that stepping back for a moment isn't a setback. It's preparation. It's getting your energy right so you don't collapse mid-journey. People respect the grind, but they forget the recovery. But look at anyone who's mastered their life, whether it's in business, art, health, or leadership. They all have something in common. They know how to pull back before they fall apart. They know when they're at their best and when they need to reset. That's not luck. That's discipline backed by wisdom. And here's something most people won't admit. Some of your best ideas come when you're not working, when your mind is relaxed, when you're out for a walk, when you're sitting quietly with no pressure. That's when insight shows up. That's when connections form, not when you're stressed, rushing, or halfway focused. So when you feel your mind getting foggy, don't ignore it. When your focus keeps slipping, don't push through it. When your thoughts are scattered and your patience is low, don't pretend you're okay. Step away, breathe, reset, do something different. Step into silence, step into stillness, step into space that allows you to hear your own thoughts again. This isn't about slowing down your success. It's about making sure your success is real, steady, and sustainable. What's the point of reaching your goals if your mind is falling apart in the process? What's the use of achieving something big if you're too exhausted to enjoy it? That's not the path you want. You want energy that lasts, clarity that stays, focus that shows up when it counts. And you get all of that by knowing when to rest. Don't wait for your body to shut down. Don't wait until you get sick. Don't wait until your mind is too numb to care. Master your energy by listening early, responding early, resting early. That's the kind of power that doesn't burn out. That's how you keep going, not by pushing harder, but by knowing when to stop. If you truly want to master your energy, don't just focus on what you can do, focus on what you should pause. Pay attention to your mind. It will always tell you when it needs a break. The question is, will you listen or will you keep pushing until you crash? You choose. You can either build a strong mind with smart rest, or you can break it by ignoring what it's trying to tell you. Take breaks before your mind breaks down. That choice will make all the difference. Number 3, limit small talk that kills your mental sharpness. Mental sharpness is not something you just wake up with. It's built, it's earned, it's protected, and one of the fastest ways to lose it is by letting too much useless conversation take over your day. People think words don't cost much, but they do. Every conversation pulls from your focus. Every minute you spend locked in small talk is a minute you're not using to think clearly, to plan, to act, or to solve real problems. That might not sound like a big deal, but over time it weakens your attention and makes your thoughts feel scattered. Small talk is everywhere. It starts with casual greetings that go nowhere. It turns into endless comments about the weather, the news, someone else's life, things that don't impact you at all. And before you know it, you spend an hour using your energy on nothing meaningful. You didn't grow. You didn't build. You didn't improve. You just stayed busy. And mental sharpness is not about being busy. It's about being precise. Now, I'm not saying you have to walk around being cold or silent. What I'm saying is you have to choose who and what you give your mental space to. Some conversations sharpen you. They challenge your thinking. They open your eyes. They build ideas. You walk away feeling more aware, more focused, more alive. But that's not small talk. That's real communication. That's rare. Small talk kills sharpness because it trains your mind to stay on the surface. It keeps your brain bouncing between low-level subjects that don't require real thought. It pulls your focus away from things that matter, and it creates this false sense of connection. You feel like you're interacting, but there's no depth, no progress, no clarity, just noise. And when your mind gets used to noise, it starts avoiding depth. You lose your ability to think deeply, to sit with silence, to process complexity. Sharp minds are built in quiet spaces. They're built in moments of reflection. They're built by asking questions that matter, even if they're uncomfortable. If all your conversations are easy and shallow, you won't develop the strength to handle hard thinking. You'll get used to distraction. And the more distracted you are, the less control you have over your focus. You have to start protecting your energy from empty talk. It doesn't mean you can't be friendly. It means you stop giving your time to repeated conversations that go nowhere. It means you notice when someone's only trying to pass time, not grow. It means you recognize when your brain starts drifting because it's bored, not because you're lazy. Mental sharpness requires that you be aware of how you use your words and how others use theirs. There are people who love small talk because it keeps them from facing their own thoughts. And they'll pull you into that rhythm if you let them. You'll find yourself repeating the same stories, the same gossip, the same surface opinions, and you won't even notice how tired your mind feels afterward. But it shows up later. You'll try to focus on something important, and you'll struggle. You'll try to write, plan, solve, and you'll feel slow. That's not random. That's the cost of letting your focus leak into useless places. Every sharp thinker I've ever known guards their space. They don't waste words. They don't talk to fill silence. They don't interrupt their focus for every distraction that passes by. And people often mistake that for being distant. But it's not distance, it's discipline. They know how valuable their mental energy is, and they don't hand it out carelessly. They know that clarity takes effort, and effort needs protection. You're not being rude when you choose to limit small talk. You're being responsible. You're showing that your mind is not available for meaningless noise. You're choosing growth over distraction. You're training yourself to value quality over comfort. Most people won't understand that. They'll want your attention just because they're bored. But you don't owe anyone access to your focus. You owe it to yourself to build a life that's intentional. Think about the times you've had a real conversation, one that stayed with you, one that challenged your view, one that made you feel alive. How did your mind feel afterward? Clear, awake, motivated. Now compare that to the moments you've sat through the same shallow talk with no direction, just filling time. How did that feel? Draining, dull, pointless? That contrast tells you everything you need to know about where your energy should go. This is where sharpness starts, not in the middle of a project, but in how you treat the minutes between tasks, in how you speak, in how you listen, in how you respond. Mental sharpness isn't built during the big events. It's built in the small choices you make every day. When you choose not to engage in gossip, when you skip conversations that you know are a waste of your attention, when you let silence do the work of clearing your thoughts. If you want to grow faster, talk less about what doesn't matter. If you want to stay clear, don't respond to every comment that comes your way. If you want to stay sharp, build quiet into your day. Give your mind space to breathe. Let your thoughts deepen before you share them. And when you do speak, speak with meaning, speak with purpose, speak to connect, not to kill time. You don't have to explain this to anyone. Just live it. People will notice the difference. You'll seem calmer. You'll seem more focused. You'll get more done in less time. And your energy will stay high, not because you worked harder, but because you protected what matters. You were not meant to waste your mental strength on constant noise. You were meant to build, to grow, to contribute. That starts with clarity. And clarity starts with choosing silence over distraction, intention over habit, depth over surface. So limit small talk, not because you don't care, but because you care too much to waste your energy. Protect your mental sharpness like it's your most valuable asset, because it is. When your mind is clear, everything else gets easier. Your work gets better, your decisions get stronger, your relationships get deeper, and your life becomes more peaceful. This is how you take back your energy. Not by doing more, but by doing less of what drains you. Keep your mind sharp by treating your attention like it matters, because once you lose your edge, you lose your direction, and nothing in life is worth that. Number 4, start your day without checking other people's lives. The first hour of your day is the most important part of your life. It sets the tone for everything that follows. And yet, most people give that hour away the moment they wake up. They reach for their phones, scroll through other people's photos, comments, problems, and highlight reels. Before they've even looked in the mirror, they've already stepped into someone else's world. That's a dangerous way to live, and most people don't even notice they're doing it. When you start your day by checking what everyone else is doing, you teach your mind to focus on comparison. You train your brain to see other people's progress before you've even taken one step of your own. You enter the day as a follower, not a leader. And you start losing control of your energy without even realizing it. That morning space, when your mind is clear, your body is still waking up, and the world hasn't hit you yet. That's sacred time. You don't get that back later in the day. Once it's gone, it's gone. That's the time you should be using to build your mindset, review your priorities, get grounded in what matters to you. But instead, people use that time to absorb noise. And then they wonder why they feel scattered, anxious, and unfocused by 10 a.m. It's not just about social media. It's about attention. It's about discipline. Every time you wake up and immediately shift your focus to what someone else is saying or doing, you abandon your own direction. You put your goals on pause. You delay your clarity, and you start reacting instead of leading. This kind of behavior doesn't seem like a big deal in the moment. But over time, it becomes a pattern. And that pattern rewires your brain to seek distraction instead of purpose. You begin to feel like you're falling behind, not because you are, but because you're watching others race ahead. You haven't even started your day, and already you feel defeated. That's not mindset. That's self-sabotage. You need to remember that your life happens in real time, not in somebody's post, not in someone's story, and not in someone's feed. You have real responsibilities, real goals, real relationships, real potential. And none of those things grow when your eyes are glued to someone else's updates. You can't build something meaningful if your energy is spent checking updates that don't feed your growth. What you do first thing in the morning says everything about what you value. If you value peace, you'll start with silence. If you value discipline, you'll start with structure. If you value purpose, you'll start with clarity. But if you value distraction, you'll start with someone else's life. And once you start there, it's hard to come back. You can't lead your life from the passenger seat. You can't move forward if your attention is stuck in other people's business. And you can't stay mentally strong if your day begins in mental chaos. You've got to build better boundaries around your time and your thoughts. Not for perfection, but for control. Because if you don't control the first hour of your day, the rest of the day will control you. There's nothing wrong with staying informed. There's nothing wrong with being connected, but there's something deeply wrong with being addicted to other people's lives while ignoring your own. If you check updates before checking your priorities, you're giving away your focus. If you scroll before you breathe, you're creating anxiety before you've even left the bed. That kind of lifestyle eats away at your energy slowly, quietly. You don't even see it happening, but it's there. In your lowered attention span, in your decreased motivation, in your emotional confusion. You're overwhelmed not because your life is too full, but because your mind is too distracted. You've got to start your mornings on your terms. You've got to build habits that reinforce your strength, not your dependence. You need structure, not stimulation. You need awareness, not updates. You need to connect with yourself before the world tries to convince you who to be. Wake up. Breathe deeply, sit still, write something, plan your day, move your body, do anything that points you back to your own path. That first hour is not for anyone else. It's for you. It's where you collect your thoughts. It's where you plant your intentions. It's where you remind yourself that your life is your responsibility. There's no rule that says you have to be available the moment your eyes open. You don't have to check messages. You don't have to open apps. You don't have to respond. You don't owe the world your attention before you've given it to yourself. And when you start practicing that kind of control, you'll begin to notice something powerful. You start thinking better. You feel lighter. You become calmer. You stay focused longer. That's not coincidence. That's the result of honoring your mental space. You can't be sharp if your first thought of the day is shaped by strangers. You can't think clearly if your energy is tied to digital noise. And you can't lead your day with strength if you're mentally stuck in other people's lives. That's not how focus is built. That's how confusion spreads. So change the pattern. Start with yourself. Give your attention to your own goals. Build your own momentum. Protect your thoughts from the flood of unnecessary content. You'll find that when you stop starting your day with other people's stories, you finally start living your own. And if you want to build something meaningful in your life, something real, something strong, this is where you begin. Not with noise, not with distraction, but with quiet focus on what matters most to you. Start your day without checking other people's lives, not because you're trying to ignore the world, but because you're trying to build one that's worth waking up for. Number 5, walk alone sometimes to hear your own thoughts. Most people never hear their own thoughts because they're never alone long enough to listen. From the moment they wake up to the moment they go to bed, there's always noise, messages, conversations, notifications, entertainment, background chatter. They fill every quiet moment with something. But the truth is, if you never create space to hear yourself, you'll never understand what you truly need. You'll end up reacting to everything around you without ever checking in with what's going on inside. Walking alone isn't just about taking a break. It's about reconnecting with your mind without interruption. When you're by yourself, something powerful happens. Your thoughts rise to the surface. The ones you've been pushing aside, the ones you've been avoiding, the ones that show you exactly what needs attention. But you can't hear those thoughts in the middle of constant stimulation. You can't access that kind of clarity when your mind is busy reacting to everyone else's noise. Some of the most important realizations you'll ever have won't come in a meeting or a conversation. They'll come when you're walking by yourself. No phone in your hand, no one around to distract you, just you and your mind sorting through the pieces. That kind of clarity doesn't come through effort. It comes through space. It shows up when you're not performing, when you're not rushing, when you're not trying to impress anyone, just walking, breathing, thinking. There's a kind of wisdom you gain when you give your thoughts room to breathe. You start to understand why you've been tired, why you've been restless, why you've been feeling off, even when life looks fine on the outside. But most people don't give themselves the chance to see that. They're afraid of what might come up in the silence. They stay busy so they don't have to face themselves. But growth doesn't happen in constant motion. It happens in reflection. And reflection requires stillness. Even if you're moving your feet, your mind needs to settle. When you walk alone, your focus changes. You're not putting on a face. You're not filtering your thoughts. You're just present. You notice how your body feels. You notice how your mind wanders. You notice the ideas that keep repeating. And if you're honest with yourself, those are the thoughts you need to address, not the ones you're pretending don't matter, the ones that keep showing up when there's no one around to distract you. You need that. You need that level of honesty, because you can't improve what you keep ignoring. You can't solve what you don't understand. And you won't get to the root of your frustration if you're always surrounded by other people's opinions. Walking alone gives you a mirror, not the kind that shows your face, but the kind that reveals your mental state. And once you see that clearly, you can start to work with it. It's not just about healing either. It's about direction. Some of your strongest decisions will come when you're alone, walking, thinking, seeing things as they are. You'll realize what you've been holding on to that you don't need. You'll recognize what you've outgrown. You'll understand what's really important to you, not what looks good, not what sounds right, but what actually feels aligned with your values and your truth. That kind of clarity helps you move with purpose, not pressure. You don't have to go far. You don't need a perfect path. Just a space where you can be by yourself for a little while. Somewhere you can hear your own breathing. Somewhere you can feel your feet hitting the ground. Somewhere you can disconnect from the world long enough to connect with yourself. These moments don't have to be long to be powerful. 10 minutes alone can sometimes do more for your mind than an entire day surrounded by noise. And here's the part most people miss. Mental energy isn't just about what you do. It's also about what you carry. And you carry more than you think. You carry doubts, expectations, pressure, fear. And when you don't make time to process those things, they build up. You feel heavy, stuck, tired. Walking alone gives you a way to let some of that go. You don't need to solve everything. Sometimes just hearing the thought, just seeing it clearly is enough to shift something inside. There's no one else's pace to match, no one to impress, no pressure to respond or react. You move how you need to move. You think how you need to think. That's the kind of freedom people rarely give themselves, and it's exactly the kind of space that helps you recharge. You'll find that your mind works better afterward. Your ideas are clearer, and it's not because you stopped working. It's because you gave your brain what it needed. Space to think without judgment, time to process without input, clarity without competition. This isn't about isolation. It's about independence. It's about proving to yourself that you don't need constant input to feel whole, that you can be by yourself and still feel strong, that you can trust your own mind to guide you if you give it room to speak. And once you experience that, you won't want to go back to constant stimulation. You'll start to crave those quiet walks, not as an escape, but as a way to stay aligned. The more you do it, the more you learn to hear your instincts. You stop second-guessing yourself. You stop chasing noise. You stop feeling like you need someone else's opinion to validate your choices. You begin to notice your own wisdom, and that is one of the most powerful things you can build. There's a difference between being alone and being disconnected. Walking alone doesn't separate you from the world. It connects you more deeply to it because it helps you connect to yourself first. And when you're grounded in your own clarity, you show up better for others. You're not drained. You're not confused. You're not distracted. You're present, aware, focused. You don't need to announce it. You don't need to turn it into a project. Just go. Find a quiet path. Put your phone away and walk. No music, no updates, no to-do list. Just walk. Let the thoughts come, let the noise settle. Let yourself feel whatever is under the surface. You might be surprised by how much is waiting there. Not problems, insight. Not confusion, direction. Not stress, truth. This is how you get your mind back. This is how you stay strong when the world keeps pulling you in every direction. Walk alone sometimes. Not because you're running from people, but because you're returning to yourself. That's where the real answers are. That's where your power lives. That's how you master your energy, by learning to hear yourself before the world tells you who to be. Number 6. Stop forcing conversations when your body feels tired. There are moments when your body is telling you to rest, but you keep going. Not because you have something urgent to finish, but because you feel obligated to keep engaging. You force yourself into conversations when your energy is already gone. You pretend to be present when your mind is begging for silence. And every time you do that, you weaken your ability to recover. You stretch yourself further than you should, and slowly it starts to show, not just in how you feel, but in how you think, how you speak, and how you connect with others. You weren't designed to be available all the time. Your body needs recovery. Your mind needs stillness. Your emotions need space to reset. And when you ignore those signals, when you keep pushing through just to avoid silence or to be polite, you pay for it in ways that are hard to see at first. You feel disconnected from your words. Your thoughts lose clarity. You become short-tempered. You lose patience in conversations that used to feel easy. That's not a personality shift. That's fatigue trying to get your attention. There's nothing wrong with pausing. There's nothing wrong with saying, "I'm too tired to talk right now." That's not rudeness. That's responsibility. That's awareness. That's maturity. When you stop forcing conversations that drain you, you protect your energy. You respect your limits, and you give yourself a chance to come back stronger, clearer, and more honest. Too many people think they have to be available 24/7, that if someone starts a conversation, they have to respond, that if someone needs attention, they must give it, no matter how they feel inside. But that kind of thinking leads to emotional burnout, because you're giving from a place that's already empty. You're offering energy you don't have, and over time that turns into resentment, exhaustion, and confusion. You can't fake connection. When your body is tired, your presence suffers. You're there in the room, but not in the moment. You nod along, you try to keep up, but your mind is somewhere else, trying to catch its breath. That's not communication, that's survival. And it's not healthy for you or for the person you're speaking with, because neither of you is getting what you truly need: authenticity. It's okay to take space. You don't owe anyone your attention at the cost of your health. You don't have to keep talking when what you really need is sleep, quiet, or just a moment alone. People who care about you will understand. People who respect energy will appreciate it. And the ones who don't, well, that tells you something important. That tells you they care more about being heard than about hearing you. And that's not the kind of connection you need to pour into when you're low on energy. There's a time for everything. There's a time to listen, a time to speak, and a time to step away. Knowing when to step away is part of mastering your life. Because when you pause, you're not quitting, you're preserving. You're giving yourself the space to come back with clarity, strength, and truth. Most people don't realize how much energy conversations take. It's not just words, it's focus, emotion, memory, understanding, presence. All of that requires mental and physical energy. And if you're drained, you won't be able to give it fully. You might pretend you are, but deep down you'll feel the disconnect. You'll feel the pressure. You'll feel like you're performing instead of engaging. And over time, that becomes your norm. You get used to forcing it. You get used to pretending. And eventually you forget what real, meaningful communication even feels like. You start avoiding people, not because you don't care, but because you've conditioned yourself to associate connection with exhaustion. That's a dangerous place to be. You don't have to wait until you break down. You don't have to keep pushing until you snap. You can start choosing moments of rest now. You can decide to listen to your body. You can allow yourself to step back when the energy isn't there. That's not selfish. That's intelligent. That's sustainable. When you do this, something powerful happens. You begin to trust yourself more. You begin to listen to your needs. You begin to respect your limits, not as weaknesses, but as signals. You become more intentional with your time. You become more selective with your energy. And that changes how you show up, not just in conversations, but in every part of your life. You start bringing your full self to the table, not just a tired version of you, not just a polite version of you, but the real version, the one who's clear, rested, alert, and capable of connection. And when you speak from that place, your words carry more weight. Your presence is more powerful. Your mind is more focused. People feel that. People respect that. You don't need to explain it to anyone. You don't need to apologize for taking care of yourself. You just need to do it. The people who value your presence will value your process. They won't take it personally when you say, "I need a break." They won't judge you when you step away. They'll know that when you do return, you'll bring value, clarity, and real energy, not just noise. Some of the most successful people in the world protect their time with discipline, not because they're antisocial, but because they understand that tired minds make poor decisions, that burnt-out bodies lead to weak execution, that emotional fatigue leads to mistakes, miscommunication, and frustration. They guard their energy like it matters because it does, and so should you. You don't need to be in every conversation. You don't need to respond to every message. You don't have to attend every gathering. It's okay to say no. It's okay to say, "I'm not available right now." It's okay to rest without guilt. In fact, it's necessary, because you can't grow if you're always drained. You can't stay sharp if you're always scattered. You can't give your best if you're always forcing it. Mastering your energy means knowing when to engage and when to pull back, when to speak and when to stay quiet, when to connect and when to recover. Every time you force a conversation when your body is tired, you lose a little bit of your edge. You weaken your clarity. You dilute your presence, and you teach yourself that other people's comfort is more important than your well-being. That's not sustainable. That's not powerful. That's not you. So stop forcing conversations when your body feels tired. Stop pretending to be okay when you need rest. Stop draining your energy to keep the peace. Start listening. Start honoring what your body is telling you. Start choosing moments of pause so you can show up stronger later. You'll think clearer. You'll speak better. You'll feel lighter. And you'll notice something you haven't felt in a while. Real energy. The kind that doesn't need caffeine or noise to survive. The kind that comes from being aligned with yourself. That's what you're really after. Not constant connection, but meaningful connection. Not endless talking, but powerful communication. Not burnout, but balance. And that begins the moment you decide that your energy matters more than anyone's expectations. So take that step. Give yourself that space. Rest when you need it. Pause when it's necessary. And trust that your best self doesn't come from pushing harder. It comes from knowing when to stop. Number 7, keep your circle small so your peace stays big. Most of the stress in life doesn't come from what you're doing. It comes from who you're doing it around. You could have a simple plan, a focused mind, and clear goals. But if your environment is full of noise, drama, and negativity, your peace will never last. It doesn't matter how disciplined you are or how sharp your vision is. If the people close to you are constantly pulling you off track, you're going to lose time, energy, and clarity every single day. You don't need a crowd around you to grow. You don't need to be surrounded by 10 people who don't understand your direction. You need 2 or 3 people who actually get it. People who respect your time. People who support your vision. People who know how to listen without turning everything into competition or comparison. When your circle is small, your mind is quieter. You don't have to second guess every word you say. You don't have to explain every decision you make. You don't have to deal with fake support, silent jealousy, or disguised negativity. You don't need to be cold to protect your peace. You just need to be clear about who gets close, because peace doesn't come from isolation. It comes from boundaries. You can be surrounded by people and still feel alone, misunderstood, or drained. And you can be with a small, tight circle and feel stronger, lighter, and more focused. That's the difference. Some people are only around because of access. They don't really care about you. They care about what they can take from you. Your energy, your attention, your ideas. And the more access you give them, the more they start to feel entitled to your life. They start expecting things from you without giving anything meaningful in return. That's not friendship. That's a transaction. And the more of those you allow, the less peace you'll have. Because peace can't survive where there's imbalance. You weren't meant to carry everyone. You weren't built to solve every problem for every person who crosses your path. There's nothing wrong with being kind, but kindness without boundaries leads to exhaustion. You can be good to people without letting everyone in. You can love people from a distance. You can care deeply without destroying your own peace in the process. Keeping your circle small is not about arrogance. It's about clarity. It's about knowing what your mind needs to stay focused and emotionally steady. When your circle is too big, your energy is scattered. You're pulled in too many directions. You become reactive instead of intentional. You spend too much time managing people and not enough time managing yourself. You start putting out fires that you didn't start, and eventually you burn out. Not because you failed, but because you allowed the wrong voices too close. There's power in keeping your life private. There's peace in not having to explain every move. When your circle is small, you don't feel the pressure to impress. You just do your work. You just live your values. You just move forward without constantly checking who's watching. You stop performing and start building. And that shift changes everything. If someone brings confusion, tension, or drama every time they come around, they're not part of your solution. They're part of the problem. And it's your job to recognize that, not to judge them, but to protect yourself. Because if your peace disappears every time a certain person enters the room, you're giving them too much space in your life. And that space could be used for clarity, for rest, for growth. You need to start noticing how you feel after spending time with people. That feeling is data. If you walk away drained, irritated, or heavy, something's off. You're not being uplifted, you're being weighed down. And if you ignore that for too long, your goals will slow down. Your motivation will fade. You'll start dreading the very things you used to enjoy, not because you've changed, but because your environment has become too noisy to think straight. You're not supposed to fight for peace every day. Peace should be your foundation, not your battlefield. And the way you keep it is by being careful with who you give your time, your energy, and your trust to. It's not selfish to choose peace over popularity. It's not wrong to prefer solitude over chaos. That's not weakness, that's self-respect. Some people won't understand your decision to step back. They'll call you distant, arrogant, or selfish. That's okay. Let them. Because your life isn't meant to be lived for their approval. It's meant to be built with purpose. And purpose thrives in quiet, focused, intentional spaces, not in chaotic, crowded circles. If someone constantly needs to be entertained, constantly questions your moves, constantly makes you feel like you have to defend your choices, they don't belong in your close circle. The people closest to you should bring clarity, not confusion. They should bring calm, not conflict. They should remind you who you are, not make you question your worth. Keeping your circle small doesn't mean you shut everyone out. It means you open the door carefully. It means you filter who gets to walk with you, who gets to hear your fears, who gets to witness your growth. Because not everyone has the right intentions. Not everyone will clap when you win. Not everyone will be quiet when you're tired. Some people feed off your attention. Some people only show up when they need something. Some people enjoy the sound of your struggle more than the silence of your success. That's why you have to be intentional. You can't build anything strong with weak relationships. You can't grow if your environment keeps shrinking you. You can't focus if your circle keeps pulling you into distractions. The people around you should sharpen your mind, not scatter it. They should challenge you to rise, not pressure you to settle. Every time you choose peace, you gain strength. Every time you distance yourself from someone who drains you, you gain clarity. Every time you protect your space, you grow more grounded. And that grounded state is where your best ideas are born. That's where your discipline comes from. That's where your emotional power lives. So stop letting everyone in. Start paying attention to how people treat your peace. If they don't respect it, they don't respect you. And if they don't respect you, they shouldn't be close. It's really that simple. The smaller your circle, the less noise you deal with. The fewer explanations you have to give, the fewer conflicts you have to manage, and the more energy you have for what truly matters. Your goals, your values, your purpose, your health, your growth. You'll be misunderstood. That's part of it. You'll be called names. That happens. But what you won't be is drained. What you won't be is confused. What you won't be is surrounded by people who don't belong. Keep your circle small. Let your peace grow. That's how you build a strong, focused, and fulfilling life, not by trying to please everyone, not by keeping every connection alive, but by choosing the few who deserve to walk beside you while you build something real.
Number 8, don't let lazy days turn into lazy weeks. One lazy day doesn't ruin your progress. One off day, one missed workout, one unproductive afternoon. It happens to everyone. What ruins your progress is when that one lazy day turns into 2, then 3, and before you know it, you've lost momentum, your routine is broken, and your goals are on hold. That's not because you're lazy. It's because you let one slip, turn into a pattern. That's how most people fall behind, not in a dramatic collapse, but in quiet, subtle choices that slowly lower their standards. It always starts small. You say, I'll get back to it tomorrow. Then tomorrow shows up and your motivation isn't back yet. You feel tired, so you delay again. You convince yourself that a few more hours of rest will help, but it doesn't. It just feeds the habit. Your body gets used to comfort, your mind gets used to delay. And each day you put off action, it gets harder to return to it. The energy you once had fades. The drive you once felt weakens. And soon you're looking back, trying to figure out how you lost control. The truth is, discipline doesn't break in a single moment. It fades when you stop checking yourself, when you stop asking hard questions, when you stop holding the line. You get too relaxed, too forgiving. And while grace is necessary, excuses are dangerous. There's a difference between rest and avoidance. There's a difference between recovery and giving up. You know the difference. You feel it. One gives you strength, the other takes it away. When you stop showing up for yourself, even for a day, you need to be honest about why. Were you overwhelmed, distracted, unclear, or were you just avoiding effort? That kind of honesty is hard, but it's what keeps you from falling into a cycle of laziness. Because once you label every lazy day as self-care, you start losing the meaning of real rest. Real rest feels refreshing. Laziness just leaves you more tired. You have to create a standard for your life that doesn't rely on mood. If you only act when you feel like it, you'll never build anything lasting. You'll be controlled by energy swings. You'll depend on motivation. But motivation is temporary. It comes and goes. What matters is your system, your habits, your personal rules. Those are the things that save you when the motivation disappears. Lazy days will happen. That's not the issue. The issue is how quickly you correct yourself. Do you get up the next day and get back on track? Do you take responsibility, or do you hide behind excuses? That choice decides how far you go. That choice decides who you become. People who achieve real success are not perfect. They miss days. They fall off, but they don't stay down. They don't let it stretch into a week, a month, or a season. They feel the discomfort of falling behind, and they move. They act. They return. They don't wait for the perfect mood. They rebuild their rhythm, even when it's hard. You need to catch yourself early. That first day you skip the gym. That morning you sleep in without a reason. That time you avoid the task because it's uncomfortable. That's your warning sign. That's when you talk to yourself. Not to beat yourself up, but to get real. To remind yourself that comfort is easy to reach for, but it's not where your power comes from. Lazy days turn into lazy weeks because there's no interruption, no correction, no boundary, and you can't afford to let that happen if you want to build something strong. Your goals don't pause when you do. The world doesn't wait for you to feel ready again. Time keeps moving, and if you're not careful, you'll waste weeks that could have been used to get better. When you feel lazy, don't wait for it to pass. Do something small to interrupt it. Make your bed, go for a walk, open your journal, drink water, do one push-up, write one paragraph. The action doesn't need to be big, it just needs to exist. That small action tells your mind, we're not quitting, we're still in this. And once you start, even a little, the energy begins to shift. You gain traction, you regain focus, and you remind yourself that you're still in control. Laziness grows in silence, in avoidance, in hiding. It fades in movement, in honesty, in action. And you don't need to wait for a full reset. You don't need to overhaul your life. You just need to interrupt the pattern. Take back the day before it takes you. You don't need to win the whole week. Just stop the slide today. It's easy to say, I'll get serious next month. But every time you say that, you're training yourself to delay your life. There's no perfect time. There's no right mood. There's just now. There's just the moment you decide that your standards matter more than your comfort. The moment you stop asking how you feel and start asking what needs to be done. Some people waste years, stuck in a cycle that started with one lazy day, one skipped task, one, I'll do it later. It became a habit. Then it became a personality. Then it became regret. Don't let that be you. Don't let a slow moment become a slow life. Don't let short-term comfort steal long-term strength. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to pause, but you are not meant to live in pause. You are not meant to settle in low energy. Your mind is sharper than that. Your potential is stronger than that. But you've got to stay honest with yourself. You've got to hold yourself to a higher standard. The goal is not perfection. It's consistency. It's staying close to the path, even when you stumble. It's correcting quickly, not waiting weeks to feel ready. It's reminding yourself that your goals are still waiting, even on the days you feel off. So the next time you feel yourself slipping, don't panic. Don't overthink. Just act. Do something small, something real. Break the pattern before it becomes a problem. The moment you catch yourself and course correct, you take your power back. That's how you stay on track, not by never falling, but by never letting yourself stay down too long. You won't always be at your best, but you can always return to it faster than before. That's growth. That's discipline. That's how you stop lazy days from turning into lazy weeks, and how you keep building a life you're proud of. Number 9, respect your time like it actually matters to you. Most people say time is important, but their actions tell a different story. They waste it like it's unlimited. They give it away like it doesn't cost anything. They spend hours on things that don't matter, and leave the important work for later, as if later is guaranteed. But if you truly understood how short life is, you'd start treating your time like it actually matters. Not just in words, but in what you do every single day. Time is not just ticking on a clock. It's your life moving forward. Every hour you waste is an hour you'll never get back. You don't get refunds on time. You don't get to relive yesterday. You don't get to pause the clock when you feel lost. It keeps moving with or without your permission. And that means every choice you make either builds your life or steals it. Every conversation, every commitment, every distraction, you either grow from it or it pulls you off course. People don't lose years of their life all at once. They lose it a few minutes at a time, scrolling endlessly, saying yes to things they don't care about, getting trapped in conversations that lead nowhere, waiting for motivation to arrive instead of acting with intention. It feels small in the moment, but added up over time, it's the difference between a life that moves forward and one that stays stuck. If you respected your time, you'd stop explaining yourself to people who don't listen. You'd stop responding to every message the second it shows up. You'd stop filling your day with things just to stay busy. You'd look at your schedule and ask, does this matter? Will this move me forward? Will this drain me or develop me? That kind of thinking changes everything. It cuts the noise. It helps you focus. It builds momentum. And momentum is how you create the life you want, not someday, but right now. You have to understand, when you give your time to something, you're giving your attention, your energy, your presence. That's not small. That's your life force. And if you're not intentional, people will take it. They'll invite you into distractions, ask for your help with problems they created, waste your afternoon with meaningless talk, not because they're bad people, but because they're not responsible for your life. You are. It's your job to protect your schedule, to say no without guilt, to make time for the things that matter before your energy gets spent on things that don't. The difference between average and extraordinary isn't talent, it's time management. Successful people don't have more time, they just use it better. They don't wait for perfect conditions. They don't wait until they feel like it. They build structure. They live by priorities, not pressure. They understand that their future is built in how they spend their hours, not their dreams. Anyone can say they want a better life, but what are you doing between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m.? What are you doing in the quiet hours when no one's watching? That's where change begins. Respecting your time means you treat it like it's limited, because it is. It means you plan your days, you guard your focus, you build routines that serve you, you track where your energy goes, you don't chase distractions, you don't overload your plate with tasks that don't align with your goals, you simplify. You commit to fewer things but go deeper with them. You stop apologizing for prioritizing your future. Too many people treat their time like an afterthought. They react to life instead of designing it. They give their best hours to things that drain them and leave the leftovers for their dreams. And then they wonder why they're stuck. It's not a mystery, it's not fate, it's habit. And habits can be changed. You need to build your day around what matters most. Start with the hard things. Do the deep work when your mind is fresh. Cut the random scrolling. Schedule your time like it's sacred, because it is. Build quiet into your mornings. Review your progress at night. Don't just drift through your days, drive them. If you don't choose how to spend your time, someone else will, and they won't choose wisely. The world is full of distractions disguised as opportunities. It's full of people who will take your attention without giving anything back. If you don't draw the line, they'll keep crossing it. And the more your time gets eaten up by things that don't matter, the less life you have left for the things that do. You don't need more hours in the day. You need to stop wasting the ones you already have. You need to stop treating every request as urgent. You need to stop allowing interruptions to control your workflow. You need to stop talking about what you'll do one day and start acting like your time is valuable right now. Time doesn't care how motivated you are. It keeps moving whether you act or not. That's why discipline matters more than desire. That's why routines matter more than moods. That's why boundaries matter more than being liked. If you let other people schedule your life, they'll fill it with their problems, not your priorities. Every day you wake up, you're given another chance to move closer to the life you want. But that window doesn't stay open forever. One day you won't have the energy. One day you won't have the time. One day it'll be too late to start. You think you have more time than you do. You think tomorrow is a guarantee. But if you don't act today, what makes you think you'll act tomorrow? Start tracking how you spend your time. Not for guilt, but for awareness. Start choosing your hours like you choose your closest friends carefully. Build a life you don't need to escape from. Create days that you look forward to. Protect your calendar. Eliminate the noise. Stay present in what matters. Because one focused hour is worth more than 10 distracted ones. Time is the most expensive thing you own. You can't borrow more. You can't pause it. You can't earn it back. All you can do is use it. And the way you use it reveals what you truly value. Not what you say you value, but what you prove with your behavior. So the question is simple. Do you respect your time like it actually matters to you? Because if you don't, no one else will. If you don't take it seriously, people will keep stealing it. If you don't build your days with intention, your life will be filled with regret. Start today, not tomorrow, not next week. Today. Review your day. Cut what doesn't help you grow. Focus on what moves you forward. Give your time the same value you give to money, to health, to anything else that matters, because it does. The quality of your time determines the quality of your life, and nothing changes until you start treating it that way. Number 10, choose your tasks based on energy, not pressure.
One of the biggest mistakes people make every day is choosing what to do based on pressure instead of energy. They let urgency control their day instead of alignment. They wake up and immediately ask, what needs to be done right now, instead of asking, what can I do best with the energy I have right now? And that one question asked the wrong way leads to wasted hours, scattered focus, and tasks that drain instead of build. You can't master your life if you're always reacting. You need to decide based on strength, not stress. Pressure creates panic. Energy creates progress. When you choose your tasks based on pressure, you force your way through work that doesn't match your state of mind. You do the heavy thinking when your brain is already tired. You tackle the most difficult conversations when you're emotionally off. You push into complex problems when you're physically drained. And it shows. Your work gets sloppy, your tone gets sharp, and your progress slows down. But when you match your energy to the right task, everything feels cleaner. You get more done with less resistance. You finish faster. You feel better while doing it. This doesn't mean you avoid hard things. It means you do them at the right time. You use your high energy moments for deep work, creative tasks, problem solving, planning. You save the low energy slots for repetitive work, simple decisions, or recovery. That's not laziness. That's strategy. Because success isn't about doing more. It's about doing what matters when it matters most. Your energy is not constant. It goes up and down throughout the day. And if you ignore that rhythm, you'll always feel like you're fighting against yourself. You'll try to do your most important work during your lowest energy window. You'll answer calls when your mind is foggy. You'll write emails when your body is restless. You'll plan your future when your brain can barely stay awake. That's not productive. That's how you burn out. The smartest people I've met don't just work hard. They work in sync with their energy. They know their strong hours. They guard their peak time. They don't waste their clearest thinking on minor tasks. They don't try to multitask during high focus windows. They stay sharp by being intentional. And that level of awareness comes from paying attention. Noticing what times of day you feel most alert, recognizing when you need a break before you lose quality, catching when your mental energy is slipping so you can shift into something that fits. There is a real difference between movement and progress. Pressure makes you move, but energy makes you effective. Pressure says, hurry up. Energy says, here's the right time. If you spend your day responding to pressure, you'll always be behind. You'll always be reacting to noise, deadlines, people pulling at your attention. You'll get to the end of the day feeling exhausted, but not fulfilled. You were busy, but not focused. Choosing based on energy is not an excuse to avoid responsibility. It's a commitment to doing your best work at your best time. And that means saying no to things that don't fit your current state. It means moving tasks around when your focus shifts. It means building a schedule that supports your mental flow, not one that buries it under pressure. This mindset requires discipline, because pressure is loud, pressure is urgent, it screams for your attention. But energy is quiet. It requires you to pause, to reflect, to plan. And if you're not intentional, pressure will win every time. That's why most people stay stuck. Not because they're lazy, but because they're overwhelmed. They let pressure decide everything: when to work, what to do, how long to do it. They ignore how they feel until they crash. Then they blame themselves for losing motivation, when really they lost connection to their own energy. You don't need to grind yourself into the ground to prove you're productive. You need to protect your strongest hours. You need to organize your life around how you actually function, not how other people say you should. Stop copying productivity systems that don't match your mind. Stop filling your calendar with tasks just to feel busy. Start building around your energy. That's how you gain consistency. That's how you keep showing up without falling apart. You know when you're at your best. You've felt it. The hours when ideas come faster, when conversations flow better, when decisions feel easier, those hours are gold. And if you keep trading them for distractions, shallow work, or unnecessary meetings, you're giving away the best part of your day to things that don't matter. And what's left for your goals? The leftovers. That's not how you build excellence. Choose your tasks with intention. When you feel strong, do the heavy lifting, mentally and physically. When you feel scattered, take a walk, shift to something lighter, recharge. Don't force your way through something that needs clarity if your mind is already foggy. Don't try to be creative when you've got nothing in the tank. Save that for when your energy returns. And it will, if you stop draining it with tasks that don't match your rhythm. The more you live this way, the more self-aware you become. You start predicting your energy. You build a pattern that works with you, not against you. You stop crashing in the middle of the day because you planned around your own flow. And your productivity becomes sustainable, not a sprint followed by a breakdown, but a rhythm you can live with for years. You don't need a packed schedule. You need a smart one. You need a calendar that reflects your priorities and respects your energy.
You need to stop measuring success by how much you did and start measuring it by how well you used your best hours. Did you move your real goals forward? Did you protect your creative windows? Did you rest when it was time to rest? This is how you build power, not by pushing blindly, but by learning to manage your own resources. Energy is your most valuable resource. Not time, not money, energy. Because without energy, your time is wasted. Without energy, your money means nothing. And if you don't respect it, you'll always feel behind, no matter how hard you work. So stop chasing pressure. Start noticing your energy. Plan your days based on what you can give, not what others expect. And watch how much more you accomplish when you align with your natural strength. That's not lazy, that's intelligent, that's sustainable, and that's how you build a life that works. Not just once, not just for a season, but for the long run. Choose based on energy. Live with intention. Build with clarity. That's how real progress is made. Mastering your energy is not about doing more. It's about doing what matters, when it matters. If you want better focus, stronger habits, and real progress, protect your energy like it's your most valuable asset, because it is. Say no to what drains you. Build routines that give you strength. Take your power back by choosing how you show up each day. This isn't theory, it's real life. If your energy is strong, your results will follow. So start today. Be honest with yourself. Stay disciplined. And remember, when you master your energy, you master your life. That's the difference maker. That's the real edge.